I'd like to thank Ikechukwu Chukure for this platform. Well done, sir. Thank you for the invite. And I do not take it for granted. Yeah. And I want to thank also the team of Urbanize Africa for actually putting this together. This is actually apt and timely. So a round of applause for yourselves. Yes. Then I want to thank my fellow speakers for contributing to the development of Africa as a whole and Nigeria in particular. So a round of applause for yourselves as well. Then to you, the lovely audience, there will be no program without you, right? So you're the real MVPs. Put your hands together for yourselves. So I know we've been sitting for so long, and while they have my slide sorted, maybe we'll just do a brief exercise. Can we be upstanding? We've been sitting for quite a while. So it's time to just stretch a bit. Stretch a bit. So we'll just do a brief exercise. My head, my shoulder, my knees, my toes, right? So let's all comply. So my head, my shoulders, my knees, my toes. Head, shoulder, knees, and toes. Head, shoulder, knees, and toes. Head, shoulder, knees, and toes. Some people are not touching, you know. Okay, head, shoulder, knees, and toes. Head, shoulder, knees, and toes. Head, shoulder, knees, and toes. Okay, let's just wiggle, 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 wiggle. Wiggle. Yes. So I think we'll stretch the beat. For some reason, my slide is not up yet. We can be seated. Thank you. Thank you very much. So what's the problem? We are on it. You're on it. Okay. Like the moderator said, my name is Amaka Nwosu-Nnah, and I'm fondly called Auntie Amaka in the social impact space. Yes, I'm the founder, SHE-ILD Initiative, which is a woman-led non-for-profit here in our Imo State. I'm also the convener of Candid Talk with Auntie Amaka, which is a female mentorship and capacity building hub. I'm also a coach, a female advocate and a coach, and I'm proud to say that I'm also a wife and a mother. Yes. So that's me in a nutshell. And to talk about African cities and businesses, I'll be talking about corporate social responsibilities, its role and impact on society and businesses, right? Corporate social responsibility, its role and its impact on businesses and host communities. So, to do that, we'll be looking at Africa. I like to toe the sociological line because businesses must exist somewhere. And we're talking about Africa, right? Yes. And you can't talk about a people without talking about their culture. Culture is the way of life of the people. And we as Africans are known to be what? Strong with family ties. This is depicted in, it's just who we are, right? We're people-oriented. We are known to be strong on kith and kin, family ties. This is who we are as a people. So it's not wrong to say that Africa has always been what? Socially responsible. That is who we are. Tales have been told of ancient civilization that has been brought about just by communities, people, kith and kin coming together, and we have pyramids, we have structures, we have township halls, we have I wanted to say hotels, we have hospitals, we have schools. How was this achieved? It's just by people coming together. If you have wood, you bring your wood, and while the young men and the youths are actually building those structures, the women are having a cookout, supplying food, while the young ladies are fetching water, singing and dancing to the melodious tunes of the man with the gong and the flute, right? And voila, the job is done. A hospital is erected. Schools are built. Social responsibility. This is the core of who we are as what? Africans. There is no I in the African culture. We are known for what? We. That is who we are as a people. And we have done great things on the backdrop of what? Community effort. Lots of doctors, prominent doctors, engineers, professors back in the day that even traveled far to Europe and the America. How was it done? Communities did what? Contributed funds to ensure that these people achieve their dreams and ambition. And why would the community decide to invest their money on just one individual? Because they know that that success for that one individual would have what? A ripple effect on the society, on their people, and in their community. No man existed as an individual. No man's success is quite full or complete without affecting the society. That is who Africa is. So Africa has always been what? Socially responsible. Take, for instance, our farming processes. You farm on a plot of land, let's say for 4 years. Then the next 4 years, what do? You leave it fallow. Why? Shifting cultivation. Why? Because they are trying to prevent what? Erosion. This is who we are. Every man that existed saw things through the eyes of the community. Your principles are based on the principles of the community. The core of who you are stems from the community lifestyle. Check out our marriage ceremony. It's not just about you and your bride, but it's about the entire community. The naming ceremony is all about the community. And we went far in civilization by community effort. But somehow, we lost it all. And we began to see as individuals. And we lost the corporateness. And we lost our identity. We lost our purpose. And that is the source of our stunted economic growth. Because a people without an identity is a people without purpose. Your identity is what makes you unique. Your identity is what drives you. Your identity is a propeller to the next level, to greatness. It is the core of who you are. We are known to have individual chi. Do you understand? Individual chi. And that's all a corporate chi your family has, and that navigates you. It gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a sense of drive. And because of that communal living, we as a people excelled. There was no bad governance. Igbos are known to have no known rulers, right? But as a people, we were truly what? Democratic in every sense of the word. But somehow, we stumbled into civilization, in quotes, and we lost our identity. And this, losing the core of our identity, has limited our developmental and economic growth as a people. Social responsibility is not a term alien to Africa, as it is depicted in everyday communal existence as a people. So before the term social responsibility was actually coined, we as Africans were what? Socially responsible. You dare not walk across the street and throw banana peel anywhere, or litter your environment, or defecate anywhere. There were designated areas. And people knew what they needed to do for the for the society to do what? Move forward. That is the core of who we are. But we lost it. And that has set us back. And we're still paying the price for our lost identity. Food for thought. I'd just like to leave this with you. Who are you really? Who are you really? I think if you can answer that question, it brings about a mind shift in your endeavors. So social responsibility implies that individuals have a duty to act in the best interest of the environment and society as a whole. Truth be told, we as Nigerians today, we are not socially responsible. We are not. It's always the government's problem. It's always his problem. Their kidnapping is always there. It's not about me, right? But one day it will reach you. That is the reality of where we live. If you are not accountable, if you're not transparent in your dealings, then how can you ensure a viable and successful society or system? It's quite impossible. We are always blaming who? The government. But who is the government? You and I. That's the reality. If you can be socially responsible in your little corner, and she can do it, and he can do it, and you can do it, then our narrative will begin to change. So let's look at, okay, next slide. The impact of actions or decisions on society and the environment must be paramount. If it causes harm, then it is considered to be socially irresponsible. Every individual has a responsibility to act in a manner that is beneficial to society and not solely to the individual. We as Africans, we say it takes a village, right, to actually raise a child. No child was seen as belonging to just the father and the mother, right? You could be walking down the road and you misbehave and another woman knocks you on the head and you are lying. That is the core of who we are. But these days you correct a young child and the mother comes back and ties her waist to come and fight you. And that is actually the root cause of the decadence that we're experiencing in our society, because this is not who we are. It's just like Esau taking up Jacob's form, or it's just like David putting on Saul's garment. It can never work. We can't trade what we have known for what we have not tested in the battlefield. Social responsibility is the core of who we are. Family ties, kith and kin, people-oriented nature. That is who we are. No man is seen to be the be-it-all or know-it-all in the African setting. That is the true genesis of Obi Kubana. He didn't start it. This is truly who we are as Africans. Once you see the road, you call your brother. This is the way. You call the next person. This is the way. And the community does what? Progresses as a group, not as an individual. You can imagine being the only light in a village. Then you are most miserable. Because once your light is snuffed off, the village goes into what? Darkness. Back in the day, Africa never really knew famine. Only if it's brought about by what? A natural disaster. Because whatever, we had farmlands in common, right? We did things in common and we shared it according to your family size. And this is the backdrop that built Africa as a formidable continent. So, in talking about corporate social responsibility, if truth be told, if an individual is not socially responsible, how can he or her be corporately responsible, right? Because it's an individual that actually does what? Owns the corporation, right? So if you lack those principles, if you lack those morals, then it will reflect in your business. That is just it. So the term is used to describe a company's effort to improve society in some way. It is a management concept whereby companies integrate social and environmental concerns in their business operations and interactions with stakeholders. What are we saying right here? We're saying that the main aim of a corporation should not just be to do what? To make profit. you should consider the social impact of your organization, of your firm. What is the social impact? Are you solving problems? Are you solving problems? How does your business impact the environment? That is what corporate social responsibility implies. Next slide. CSRs refer to practices and policies undertaken by corporations that are intended to have positive influence on the world. It is the idea that the business has a responsibility to society that exists around it. You know, somehow these organizations have gone crazy that you feel you can deplete the world and still thrive in business. We just have one planet. We just have one environment. And if that gets destroyed, then businesses cannot hold. So we must ensure, organizations must ensure that we put the society and the environment as number one. In as much as you want to make profit, but you must also preserve these other angles. Every organization should measure its social and environmental impact as it measures profit. So this has given rise to the triple bottom line concept, which are the 3 P's in the pod. They are called people, profit, planet. For me, this is a true measure of success. Any organization that does not tick these 3 boxes is not actually successful. You might have this. Without this, you're not truly successful. You must be making an impact in the lives of people. Your employees must experience a level of satisfaction. Your host communities must be able to be reached. The people must be able to feel the impact, solve a social problem. You must impact the lives of people. Yes, you can actually be an organization without making profit, right? The true capitalist theory states that the stakeholders must be happy. But this is not just the core. Yes, you must make profit to stay afloat and to spread and keep your stakeholders happy. They must receive returns on investment. Yes, but that's not all a corporation does. Then the planet, you must ensure the safety of what? Your environment. Because without an environment, we can't thrive. Without an environment, we can't thrive. Next slide. So this concept should be paramount for every firm and should reflect in their practices and policies. So in every corporation, you must have these 3 boxes ticked. People, profits, and planet. When you tick these 3 boxes, then you can actually measure how successful you are. Some people have the whole money, but yet they can't touch lives. The greatest investment that can be made is what? In the lives of a man. Your money can diminish, but if you transform or touch a life, it transcends generations. Just a life. And not just generations. I touch you. You touch 3 other people, right? 3 other people touch 3 other people. You can see the progression of the change. It is a ripple effect. So people is key. I think why I was given this topic is because I'm actually in the social impact space and I've actually delved into communities and I really understand the heart cry of the people. So it's not, we as a people keep going. We tend to blame the government for a lot. But truth be told, the government cannot do it all. We all need to do what's pitching and do our own part to bring about the change we desire to see in our communities. Okay, the key idea behind CSR is that corporations must pursue what? Pro-social objectives alongside doing what? Maximizing profit. So in as much as, yes, we want to make profits, right? We want to have that turnover, right? But that is not all we should be geared towards achieving. We must engage in what? Pro-social objectives. right? And this is what brings about a revolution. This is what brings about the much needed change. He was talking about electric cars. Do you think that they were just thinking about making profit? The guy that thought it out, was he just thinking about making profit? No. He was thinking of how to make an impact in society. The ozone layer, they say, is eroded, right? The heat wave is killing. But something needs to be done. And they say necessity is the what? Is the mother of what? Inventions, of all inventions. So this must actually be key. There is this wave of cancer hitting the world right now. Cancer and organ failure. What do you think is the cause of all this? What we have done to the planet. How we have distorted our food chain. And we're actually paying the price. Yes, we're making the money, but we are spending so much more to do what? Get health. So we must, as corporations, be looking into pro-social objectives. An example of that is what? Minimizing environmental externalities, right? Promoting volunteerism among company employees and donating to charity. Next slide, please. There is need for companies to ensure that their operations are more socially responsible as consumer expectations are shifting. You know, whenever there's like a mob rising and agitation in the community, where do they usually lash out? On companies, big corporations. Why? They are dissatisfied. They keep hearing your profit margin, right? End of year, you say you made so and so million, but you cannot invest in roads in your community. You're going to a bank, there is no road, and the banks do not know that they owe it to host communities to do what? Make the road accessible. You have factories in the rural areas, and you cannot invest in what? Infrastructure. There is abject poverty. You cannot come to the aid of such indigent people. So the people are getting dissatisfied. So it's actually a disservice for corporations that do not engage in what? Corporate social responsibility. Because any small uprising, they launch at the companies and they loot them or they destroy them. Which shows that the consumers are getting wiser. Don't give us peanuts when we know you can give us a whole chunk of meat. So, CSR initiatives are intended to do what? To reduce the impact on the planet and also help contribute to a more sustainable and ethical world. This basic tenet is a good business strategy, an integral part of branding, and an important component for corporate public relations. If well handled, CSR is all the PR you need to do because you become one with your host community, one with the people. You share their pain and you are concerned about the environment as well. So societies today, this is not alien to us, society today is facing what? Several issues ranging from what? Insecurity, to natural disaster, to the economic crunch, to the widening gap between the rich and the poor, to lack of inclusion for women, right? There is a lot going on in society these days. And companies choosing to address those that make the most sense to their business and industries as their CSR, send the right signal and messages to host communities and consumers of their involvement, commitment, and value as an organization and business. So organizations can choose what their CSR should be, depending on what their core values are. You can imagine an industry that makes female sanitary towel deciding to donate, to make free will donations to indigent women. Is that out of place? No. It could be your corporate social responsibility. And by so doing, you become one with the community. Next slide, please. Corporate social responsibility is increasingly more important to the society because government alone cannot do it at all. CSR can come in various forms. It could come as pro bono work, product donation, financial contributions, employee community service day, eco-friendly practices, community intervention projects, right? Back in the day, we used to see maybe bank officials come out, if it's once in a week, once in a month, and do like a community project. If it's cleanup or recycling stuff, they used to do it. But these days, we do not see people invested in their community. They're only interested in doing what? Making the money and leaving the community. So as far as Nigeria is concerned, with CSR, although there are certain, that is the legality of CSR in Nigeria, although certain sections of the Nigerian legislation incorporates it within their provision, with certain exceptions that indirectly or directly regulate the observance or practices of CSR. However, presently, there is no law in Nigeria that makes it mandatory for companies to either incorporate environmental preservation into their company policies or enforce the compliance thereto. I think this is actually sad. This is actually sad that Nigeria as an entity does not have any law that can hold corporations accountable to doing any CSR for their host communities. This is actually sad, and I think this is something that the legislative arm of the government should actually look into. So, types of CSR. We have the environmental responsibility. This just goes to say that corporations should know that we just have one planet and that any harm done to the said planet or environment affects us first and business in the long run. So we must be socially responsible. Environmental responsibility can take many different forms. I think this is actually a good news. It could be, like this first speaker said, it could be in intensifying efforts to reduce what? Carbon emission. This could be an organization's corporate social responsibility. You ensure that your carbon emission is actually reduced. You can embark on recycling programs, right? Ensure that, I can imagine all these bottling companies, if they actually adopt recycling as part of their CSRs, it will go a long way. All we need is to have what? Is recycling plants, and they come take it to wherever. But this will go a long way to ensure that we have a sustainable society. We won't have these issues of flooding where we see bottles of water and pure water wraps blocking the drainages. Do you understand? So these are ways corporations could show that they're actually involved in society. It could be giving back for environmental cases. There are lots of erosion, right? There are people being displaced. Why can't these multinationals actually do something? They're actually profiting from the society itself. Why not give back? We could look into water consumption and waste in general. This is what an organization that adopts environmental preservation as their CSR can do to give back. So we have ethical responsibility. This just goes to show that the organization is fair across board in all it's doing. Excuse me. Being ethically responsible ensures that all business engagements are fair across board, including treating employees, stakeholders, and customers ethically and with respect. Examples of ways you can do that is by setting higher minimum wage, or by guaranteeing all materials are ethically sourced, employees receiving competitive pay and comprehensive benefits. You know, one of the challenges we have, because for some corporations that get expatriates into the country, you see that they tend to pay they pay their expatriates higher and pay the indigenous workers lower. Meanwhile, you're putting in the same work hours, you're doing the same kind of job, but you're being paid less. Another way they do that is if they have branches in other countries and they're paying them in dollars, right? Then when they come, they convert it and say, oh, minimum wage is 30,000. And they use that scale. Meanwhile, you are doing the same job. Your output is the same. So for an organization that wants to adopt the ethical responsibility as their CSR, you ensure that you protect what? Your staff. And that you treat them with utmost respect. And that should be reflected in their wages and their benefits. Next slide. So we have the philanthropic responsibility. I think this is the most common we have seen right here, where organizations like donate money for maybe to charity. Yes. Here, corporations promote the welfare of others. In doing this, they are following through with their philanthropic responsibility. This can be done by sponsoring non-profits, doing charitable work, by donating a percentage of their annual business earnings to prominent causes prevalent in the host community. I know some corporations actually do this. They donate a percentage of their profits to some work. Yes, I think some big corporations do this. But this is how we can sponsor. You know, sometimes I see people in the street, they just go and do, they're feeding the poor. Do you understand? And they feel that is CSR. You just package food and you go to the street and you share packaged food and water. And I begin to think, what problem are you solving actually? Hunger for one day. Do you understand? Sometimes we don't think it's not just one day, for one meal, right? Because what they are giving you won't last you the whole day. So I'm wondering, how does this help the people? How does this change the status quo of that person you have given that food? Rather than do that, why not teach them a skill? Right? Teach them to fish. Don't give them fish. Rehabilitation of those people will be worthwhile than just giving them food. And if you take into account the money spent on that feeding, you won't believe it. If you invest that money in, let's say, 5 people and train them adequately, you would have changed lives. So we need to be thinking, when we're adopting corporate social responsibility, what are you doing? Are you transforming lives? Are you solving a problem? Or you just want to be seen? And you know, most things are done. They're giving you rice with picture. So that's not a change. You're just suiting your own ego. You're not actually transforming any life. So next slide, please. Economic responsibility. Okay, in exercising this, business makes financial decisions which prioritize doing good, not just making more money. This type of CSR is intertwined with others above. So what are the benefits of corporate social responsibility? It brings about what? Employee satisfaction and retention. It helps the brand thrive, right? It brings about customer trust and public respect. It helps non-for-profits find support beyond individual funds. CSR initiative has ripple effects of positive good. With every new sustainable practice, and every company committed to fair play and ethical employee treatment, more positivity is brought into the world. This helps to curb what? Social vices, insecurity, bad governance, and ensure environmental hazards are done what? Curtailed. Because the irony of it all is that when a corporation shows that he understands your pain, right? Is committed to your progress and your development, what do you do for that corporation? You stick by that brand. Peradventure, there's an uprising. I've seen situations where they want to burn down a place and it's the indigenous that will go and form a blockade. No, you can't touch this. Why? Because such a person or such a corporation has done what? Giving back to the society. That society has felt its touch and will protect such a corporation. And this is how we can sustain businesses. And this is how Africa as a continent can do what? Thrive. This is what Nigeria needs to take the next leap. Corporateness. corporate social what? Responsibility. So, thank you very much. Okay, I think this is the end of my